Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Safe and Accessible Transportation Challenge information session on this steamy July summer morning. This is hosted by the Durham Regional Technology Development Site, or RTDS for short. And my name is Chris Gillis. I'm the manager of Applied Research Business Development at Durham College and the college lead in the Durham RTDS. And it's my pleasure to be your moderator this morning. But before we continue, I'd like to read a land acknowledgement. The Durham RTDS partners are situated on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas and the territory that is covered by the Williams Treaties. We are thankful for the opportunity to work, teach, and learn on the islands or the lands of the peoples of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nations. I would also like to remind everyone that today's session is being recorded and will be made available on the Durham RTDS website, which is durhamrtds.ca, so that all respondents to the challenge will have access to the same information. So the purpose of today's session is to provide some context for the challenge that may not be obvious from the written description, although that is fairly comprehensive. We want to walk through the challenge basics to ensure that they're clear and provide an early opportunity for questions to be raised. We also want to ensure that the RTDS objectives are clear to everyone and all the people in the audience, and ensure that in addition to the demonstration project for the challenge winner, that it's clear that all eligible small and medium-sized enterprises can access low or no-cost services from the Durham Region RTDS partners. We also want to cover the nature of project funding available from Ontario Centre of Innovation, or OCI, and that we have industry partners with technology platforms who are interested in partnering with small and medium-sized enterprises who complement their platform. So our agenda for today is I'll start and provide a brief overview of the RTDS objectives and approach, as well as some housekeeping points. Then I'll ask our regional chair, John Henry, to the stage, who will introduce the challenge with a pre-recorded message. A challenge overview will be provided by Ramesh Jagannatha, and Director of Transportation and Field Services Works Department at the Region of Durham. Next, we'll have Fernanda Navarro, our OCI Business Development Officer covering Durham Region, to provide an overview of the funding available from OCI, and that will be followed by a live Q&A in the session. I just would like to make it clear to the audience that questions specific to the challenge or of a technical nature and details, maybe of regional infrastructure, won't be answered today. They'll be gathered and answered in a published addendum for all proponents. And this is in order to provide all proponents with the same information, as well to comply with regional purchasing policy, and also allow challenge winners broadest possible options to engage with the region. And then at the end, we'll close with a brief summary and a list of key resources that proponents may need in responding to this challenge. And I just do want to remind everyone, if you have questions, please put them in the chat box. We will be monitoring that, and we'll pick those up in the Q&A as we continue. So for those of you who may not know, the Durham RTDS is part of the Provincial Ontario Vehicle Innovation Network, and it's a partnership between the Region of Durham, the Spark Centre, which is our Regional Innovation Centre, Ontario Tech University, and Durham College, with the objective of forwarding technologies that will assist with community adoption of electric, connected, and automated mobility solutions. Specifically, we're interested in transit and municipal vehicle electrification, safe and accessible transportation, and smart and connected mobility and infrastructure. The OVIN network is supported by the Ontario Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, and administered by Ontario Centre of Innovation, or OCI, and we're thankful to both of those organizations for their support. And as I said, we'll hear more about the funding available from OCI shortly. The Durham RTDS overall is looking for Ontario-based small and medium-sized enterprises, as well as out-of-province companies who are able to partner with Ontario SMEs, who have technology that can assist with community adoption of electric, connected, and automated mobility solutions for the purpose of supporting commercialization of these technologies, resulting in a positive impact on the Ontario economy. We are using both the community challenge approach, which today's information session is here for, as well as typical business development approaches to connect. So if you're in the audience and you feel that your technology is aligned with our broader objectives, but it may not fit today's particular challenge, I would encourage you, both if you are a small and medium-sized enterprise, a larger company, or another community, to reach out to us separately for a discussion by visiting our website, again, durhamrtds.ca, and go to the contact page. I also want to be clear that winners of the challenge that we're going to describe today will have support by not only the region, but also by all of the RTDS partners in carrying out the demonstration project intended to help move their commercialization efforts forward. Eligible respondents who are not winners of the challenge or who contact the Durham RTDS directly may also be able to access these services by the RTDS for low or no costs, and we'll discuss those a little bit later on as we go. As well, we have also industry partners, private sector companies with particular platforms who are interested in partnering with SMEs whose technology complements their own solutions, and learning more about that. And to learn more about those industry partners, please go to the durhamrtds.ca page and click on the partners page. So now I'd like to call on Regional Chair John Henry to introduce the challenge. And after this, Ramesh will take the stage to provide an overview of the challenge. So Chair Henry, welcome to the stage.
Hi, I'm John Henry, Chair of Durham Region. Our organization prides itself on improving Durham Region's residents' lives through collaboration and innovation. Whether it is using artificial intelligence to detect potholes on our roads, developing a first-of-its-kind smart home voice service, or championing the emergence of new vehicle technology, Durham Region is always looking for ways to innovate. It's what has helped us gain recognition as one of the top 7 intelligent communities in the world and one of the top Smart 21 communities of the year. We are thrilled to be partnered with the Spark Centre, Durham College, Ontario Tech University, and the Ontario Centre of Innovation to bring the next chapter of innovation to Durham. We look forward to the collaboration with our partners on more innovative projects and challenges in the future to help realize our shared vision of a better Durham region.
At the Region of Durham, innovation is embedded in our core. It's one of our cornerstone values, and we're demonstrating this commitment to service excellence through several innovation and modernization initiatives. We're an internationally recognized smart community, and we're working actively with our 8 local area municipalities, partners, businesses, and the community on ways to address our collective challenges in a smart, connected way. Together, we're developing opportunities to adopt modern technology and innovative thinking to improve economic competitiveness, engage citizens, and increase connectivity to support smarter, healthier, more equitable, and sustainable communities. As one of the technology partners of the Durham Regional Technology Development Site, we're launching an exciting challenge for local innovators, businesses with technology-based products to make intersections safe and accessible. Successful challenge participants will be able to pilot their solutions at regional intersections, offering a unique opportunity for businesses to test their products in a real-world scenario.
Good morning. As Chris introduced, my name is Ramesh Jagannathan. I'm with the Region of Durham Works Department in the Transportation and Field Services Department. The challenge that we have for the industry today is to provide for a safe and accessible transportation network. And the specific focus of the challenge that we have in front of us is to do with pedestrian collisions. Uh, you may be aware in Ontario, we have 100, at least over 100 deaths a year as a result of pedestrian collisions. Translating that to the region, on average, we have about 20 to 25 in that range fatal collisions per year, and about 10% of them, unfortunately, involve a pedestrian. Pedestrian collisions are of paramount concern simply because, as you know, invariably it either results in an injury or, unfortunately, a fatality. More than half of all pedestrian related collisions in Durham occur at a signal intersection. In the region, we have over about 600 traffic signals, and pedestrian related collisions, and unfortunately, often happen within the designated right of way. It's about 70% of those involving a pedestrian crossing within the right of way. And about one third of all severe collisions, which is injuries and fatal collisions at Durham, involve a turning moment. As you know, during COVID-19, the pandemic period, which we are in somewhat still, uh, although we experienced lower volumes on many of our regional roads and intersections, unfortunately, speeding was worse than pre-COVID. And as a result, our number of fatal collisions really did not decrease, and unfortunately, some of them saw pedestrians to become victims as well. Slide number 2, please. So the interaction between pedestrians and vehicles at signalized intersections has been studied by the traffic engineering industry for many decades now. As you can see from the little square in the top left of the screen, a typical intersection has like 24 conflict points where pedestrians are trying to cross the road simultaneously, sometimes when it's permitted, with vehicles either turning left, going through, or right. And through a combination of movements, it creates 24 conflict points. And specifically, there are two distinct patterns where pedestrians get on the collision path of drivers, or vice versa. The first rectangle that you see on the screen on the left is a car that's trying to turn right, which is a permitted movement as long as they are attentive to what's happening on the road, and make sure that the pedestrian they are aware that the pedestrian gets the right of way first. And that's a common collision, whether it's due to sightline issues or really due to driver inattention. And the next one is vehicles trying to turn left at a signalized intersection in a permitted phase, again where the pedestrian is legally allowed to cross the road. Obviously, road users share the road space. It's the time and space separation that keeps the system running. But any lapse in that judgment, whether on the driver's side or the pedestrian side, is what causes a collision. And of course, the third type of pedestrian collisions is really drivers proceeding through an intersection, and they are either not able to see the pedestrian, or they see them and they cannot react in time, right? And this could be a combination of people just running red lights and so on. So the in all of these combinations of collision possibilities, one common theme is, if uh, as we can all appreciate, most collisions occur because of micro or milliseconds of lapse in judgment. And if a driver is able to see the pedestrian, in other words, be more aware of a pedestrian potentially coming in their collision path, and even if that alertness is a second or two in advance, as you can appreciate, that could make a difference between no collision or injury, or at least not a fatality. And that's the whole point in trying to look for remedies to prevent such collisions. Slide number 3, please. So what's a countermeasure? Countermeasure is really any action that we take on the ground to try and prevent collision. Typically, it can be an engineering type measure, or enforcement, or just more education, or engaging the public, whether drivers and residents and pedestrians and so on. The the industry has tried many countermeasures, like in the last many decades, and many are successful. Like ladder crosswalk markings, for example. You would see them across the region at many intersections. They are meant to really increase the visibility of pedestrians, or the likelihood of pedestrians to drivers. Leading pedestrian technologies, like we have just started implementing them at a few intersections in the region. Like I think we have less than a handful, or maybe two hands full. It leading pedestrian interval basically turns the pedestrian face like a second or two in advance of the vehicles being able to turn left. So it just makes them aware of the pedestrians well in advance. Protected left turn facing, it's really a time and space separation. No right turns on red where operationally feasible is something we're going to be increasing even more. Pedestrian countdown signals, red light cameras to make sure we could reduce red light running. Automated speed enforcement really is, as we all know, like speed is can make a big difference when especially a pedestrian gets hit in terms of the outcome of the collision. Clearing all side triangles, speed reduction measures. Like so, we have a whole gamut of engineering, enforcement, education, and engagement countermeasures that have been tried. We continue to try. The some of these like do have technological elements, but the purpose of this challenge really is to try and garner some very innovative technologies that may not even be in the transportation engineering space. If we are able to demonstrate this through this challenge period, and potentially scale it up for broader deployment. Slide number 4, please. There are two specific intersections that we have identified for potential field deployment once all parties are convinced it could be deployed in a safe manner. By safe, I mean certainly it has to be technologically proven, but also from a legislative, regulatory point of view, risk management, and as well distracted driving. There are so many ways you could deal with this. At the end of the day, the focus of drivers like should still remain on their visual competence and being able to navigate intersections, complex ones. So the first one we picked was Highway 2 on Harwood Avenue. This is in the town of Ajax. As you can see the intersection in the slide, it has all the treatments that you could think of, but it's quite a complex intersection. It's quite wide because on Highway 2 we have bus rapid transit. So pedestrians crossing this road are quite challenged. The intersection is ranked fourth of all the intersections in Durham in terms of their collision record. It is one of the region's highest intersections in terms of pedestrian volume, with about 700 pedestrians crossing during an 8-hour period. It's a busy road. 27,000 vehicles enter and exit the intersection during an 8-hour period. Lots of cyclists, we have about 60 cyclists on Kingston Road per day. I say lots, probably a small number, but we expect that to be growing because on Highway 2 we also have some major expansions of cycling facilities happening over the next 5 to 7 years, and the road itself carries about 23,000 vehicles per day. And the last slide, please. The second intersection we have picked for possible demonstration is the one on Simcoe Street and Conlin Road in the city of Oshawa. It's also a high pedestrian activity location, and I believe that's also going to be growing over time given the proximity to the Durham College and Ontario Tech University. Again, it's in my opinion, it's a fairly complete intersection. As you can see from the sketch here or the satellite image, you got ladder crosswalks, proper turning lanes in all direction. But the challenge here, the intersection itself, as you can see, it's a little bit skewed. So that brings its own challenges and requires all road users to be more alert. It's ranked 21st of the collision intersections in Durham. It is one of the region's highest intersections, again with pedestrian activity of about 27 pedestrians during an 8-hour period. About 14,000 vehicles get processed through this intersection during an 8-hour period. About 250 cyclists travel on Simcoe Street per day. As the university and college campuses expand in enrollment, we would expect that to be even higher, especially on Simcoe, north of Conlin. The region just completed a complete full network of cycling and pedestrian facilities, so that we expect would attract more pedestrian activity on this corridor. And lastly, Simcoe Street is one of our busiest roads. It carries about 18,000 vehicles per day. So, in summary, we've got a challenge, and the challenge we have is definitely not unique to the region, but the region is growing by leaps and bounds. So, anything that we could test and show its worthiness in our boundaries would certainly be watched by other jurisdictions like York and Toronto, where they all have this, they share the same concern. And thank you. I'll turn it over to Chris.
Great, and thank you very much for that, Ramesh. It's interesting to hear those statistics that we have so many controlled, intersections, yet it's within the right of way that many of or most of these incidents are actually happening. And having personally traveled through both of those intersections numerous, regularly, I can certainly attest to the numbers, the busyness, and you can certainly, I think, see where increased speed would be definitely a factor. And this is a great, I think, example of where if we could find technologies to help reduce those fatalities and seriousness of the accidents, that would be terrific. So thank you very much, Ramesh, for that. And that's great. I did also want to emphasize to our audience overall that this challenge is one of 3 planned for over the next 12 months, and that each of the challenges really has 3 parts to it. Certainly the first is the issue and promotion of an RFP, as in this case, you'll be able to find the RFP document 1079 2022, both at the Durham RTDS site under the challenge page, or at the Durham Region's website under purchasing bid opportunities. So you'll get that document there. We will do an information session for each of these challenges, such as the one today, to endeavor to really bring clarity where needed. And then there will be a 2-step evaluation process. And I do want to remind the audience that the end submission of this particular challenge is end of day on August 15th. And those need to be submitted through the Durham RTDS site for that. And then once that's done, there will be initial screening, and then those that pass the screening will be asked to make a final presentation for an assessment committee. So now I'd like to call on our Region's OCI Business Development Officer, Fernanda Navarro, for an overview of funding that is available through OCI. So Fernanda, welcome to the stage. It's all yours.
Thank you, Chris. What an exciting opportunity for sure. Now I will do a quick presentation on OCI and then share some funding opportunities under the OVIN initiative. I'm Fernanda Navarro, Business Development Manager, and can we move on to the next slide, please? So OCI is a non-for-profit funded by the Government of Ontario, primarily by the Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation, and Trade. We've been around for quite some time. This year, we're actually celebrating our 35th anniversary. And while a few things have changed, such of our name, we used to be called OCE. If we could move to the next slide, please. Our main mission remains the same. We're here to de-risk and accelerate the path of innovation for Ontario-based companies and ensure that economic prosperity is an outcome out of these innovation efforts. So in essence, we're looking to, through innovation, provide our companies with the competitive advantage they need to open new market opportunities, create new jobs, and attract investments. And if we can move to the next slide, We can see a snapshot on some of the outcomes we were able to support back in 2022 to 2021 by deploying over $200 million supporting close to 900 companies. Through access to our funding and our support, we were able to support over 5,000 jobs. We were able to support companies unlock revenue opportunities up to $200 million and help them secure follow-on private investment. Could we move to the next slide, please? So, like me, there's a few business development and commercialization managers based across the region, helping companies to find, connect with some of the key resources available in the local ecosystem that will help them unlock those opportunities and help companies move forward in their innovation journey. And beyond being a collaborator, connector, and convener, if we can move to the next slide, we are also here to help companies access our programs available. And in this slide, we see the full suite of programs. But for today, we will focus exclusively on everything that's under the Ontario Vehicle Innovation Network. Could we move to the next slide? So OVIN, it's one of the key components of the Government of Ontario's plan Driving Prosperity, where the goal is to place the province at as the leader in the vehicle sector, basically by helping build, or rather build, the car of the future, leveraging emerging technologies. Specifically for Ontario-based SMEs through OVIN, what we'll look to provide it support to develop, test, and commercialize new automotive and mobility technology, provide support to hire talent, and also provide access to test and demonstration sites, such as the Durham RTDS that brings us together today. Could we move to the next slide, please? So in the past, you might have heard about AVEN. Last year, we actually got funding renewed, and we expanded the scope of what we can support under what today is OVIN. So in the past, we were focused on three of the four key mobility trends: connected vehicles, autonomous vehicles, and shared mobility. But now we're also expanding, and now we can support advancing technologies in the electrification sector as well. And really what we see on this slide is the full scope that we can support through OVIN and the technologies that we're looking to advance. Now, if we could move to the next slide, please. Here what we're seeing is really the key buckets where we have funding available. So you'll see a bucket for EV, a bucket for CAV and smart mobility, a bucket for winter tech, and a bucket for talent. So I'll get into the details for each of these in my next slide. So for EV and CAV, we have two streams. Stream one on the left is for smaller scale budgets. So typically through stream one, we can support projects that are up to 300,000 of budget. OCI can cover 1/3 of the project expenses. The goal is to get technology under EV or CAV from at a minimum TRL level 3, advance it to the proof of concept. TRL level 3, advance it to closer to the commercialization stage. And through 12 months of R&D work. For stream one, we don't have any deadlines. You can apply at any point, and it's really a one-stage application process. Stream two is for larger scale projects, so projects that are up to 3 million in budget, where OCI can cover 1/3 of the expenses. For stream two, again, we can support technology that's at a minimum at a TRL level 3, so proof of concept, with the goal of advancing it at a minimum TRL level 7, so the demonstration stage. This through at a maximum of 24 months of R&D work. For stream two, we have two windows to apply, one in spring and one in fall. The next a call for applications will open in September, so stay tuned. For Stream 2, there's a two-stage process. We first submit an expression of interest, and if we're successful at that stage, we can move on to full proposal. Then winter tech development. This stream is quite similar to the stream 2 of EV and connected vehicles. The goal is to really prepare or rather test and develop solutions under the full OVIN scope under harsh weather conditions. That's the specific goal for winter tech. So this is for projects that are up to 1.5 million in budget, where again OCI covers 1/3 of the expenses. The minimum TRL level for a solution to start, it's TRL level 5, so a little bit higher than the other streams, with the goal of getting it at least at the TRL level 7, so the demonstration stage. Throughout 24 months of R&D work. For WinterTech, we have one call per year. We just closed our call for this year. Typically, it's around spring. So if you have a potential project, we can start preparing for our next round opening up on April of next year. And again, two-stage process, just as Stream 2. We need first our expression of interest and then full proposal. There's a couple of things that I also would like to highlight on these funding opportunities. One, please note that this is a reimbursement program, which means you have to have the capacity to incur the expenses and then get reimbursed on quarterly basis. And the second very key important element is for any application, we need both the applicant, which is the technology owner, and a market puller, which would it's a project partner that's validating the market opportunity out of the solution. You can think about an organization that could potentially become a customer or a channel of sales for your solution. Those would be suitable project partners for any project supported under OVIN. Then next slide, please. It describes our last bucket of funding, and this is to support talent development through Talent Edge. What we're getting access is support to hire college, masters, PhD students to advance internal R&D projects under the OVIN scope. From OCI, you can get $30,000 to hire an intern, with $30,000 matched by the company. To hire postdocs, you can get from OCI $35,000 with a matching of $50,000 from the company. At any given point, a company can have 2 active interns and 2 active fellows per year, and applications are open all year round. So you can apply at any point in time, no deadline, rolling intake basically. And with that, I thank you everyone. That's the end of my presentation, and I would love perhaps to invite Chris back to the stage.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Fernanda. I appreciate that, and a lot of great information, and a great history that OCI has, and you can see from the investment numbers, the job numbers, doing a great job in supporting the Ontario economy, and we certainly appreciate OCI's support for the OVIN RTDS. So that's great, and I'm going to have you stay with me. I want to make a couple additional points just before we go to the Q&A, and I do want to remind people, if you have questions for Fernanda and or Ramesh, please put those in the chat, and we'll get to those just momentarily. But I wanted to just mention to the audience, in addition to all the really important funding that OCI has, there is also support from the RTDS partners. and eligible SMEs can receive low or no cost services that is thanks to the OVIN funding that we've received. And those could be in the areas of business advisory services through the Spark Center. They could also access technical services from Ontario Tech U out of their automotive center of excellence. They have world-class test beds, a makerspace, and a charging research station. Technical services from Durham College through our applied research centers, such as our Artificial Intelligence Hub, our Center for Cybersecurity Innovation, our Mixed Reality Capture Studio, and possibly our Social Innovation Hub. And again, just a reminder that we do have industry partners who are collaborating with, have platforms and would be interested in collaborating with small and medium-sized enterprises who have a fit that complements their particular platform. And more information on all of these can be found on the Durham RTDS website at durhamrtds.ca under the Work With Us tab. So now I would like to actually welcome a few additional representatives from the region and welcome Ramesh Jagannathan back to the stage. Ramesh is Director of Transportation and Field Services at the Works Department at Durham Region. We have Sylvia Iturriaga. Sylvia is the Supervisor of Purchasing at Durham Region. And we have Allison Burgess joining Fernanda and I. And Allison is the Manager of Corporate Initiatives. So welcome to the stage, all of you. And I think we do have some questions in the chat. So let's just have a look. And I don't know, Kaylee, if there's anyone in particular that we should address first. So I've got, let's see here.
I've got a couple, Chris, I can probably, if you wish.
Yes, please, Ramesh. Please grab the ones that you feel comfortable in addressing here today. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first one I thought falls in my domain is whether cyclists should be included. Yes. Cyclists are equally vulnerable. The statistics that I gave you today was specific to pedestrians, but the challenge is equally applicable to cyclists. So in fact, like at signalized intersections, unless it has specific treatments like cross rides, they are treated no different than pedestrians, and therefore the answer to that would be yes. And in terms of data as to whether there's any pattern to when these pedestrian collisions occur, I always caution looking for patterns for collision frequencies that are very small. As you know, statistically, you could it's very easy to make inferences that that are not valid because of the small sample size. So having said that, though, based on my recollection of the data that we have seen from past years, like winter dark conditions, afternoon peak seems to be somewhat critical. Clearly, dark conditions do make road users, especially pedestrians, less visible to the drivers, as you can appreciate. And what I would do is, like, we could probably send the link to our Vision Zero strategic plan report that looked at 5 years of collision data and provided a detailed breakdown of the kinds of collisions. And I believe we also have a supporting internal report which had much more details and breakdown in terms of time of day and weather conditions and light conditions and so on. So we will make sure that that can be shared through our regional team.
Okay, thank you for that, Ramesh. And I would like to remind people in the audience that even if it is a technical question that we've said we won't address today, it would be good to put it in the chat, and that will be included in an addendum that will be published later on. I do actually have a broad-based question also, Ramesh, maybe for you. I was wondering, in addition to cyclists, would solutions that maybe look at both infrastructure and drone technology, would those be ones the region would be interested in receiving sort of response from?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, any solution to look at should really be governed by many criteria, but the two major criteria is safety. for example, I don't think the industry is looking for more devices on board in their vehicles that can distract drivers even more than they are now, right? There's too many gadgets on already, I think. So distracted driving, in fact, is one of the 8 most concerning areas in terms of collision. So the last thing we want to do is like give drivers something that distracts them even more. I know it's a balancing act, right? So and that's exactly why it's a challenge, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, thank you very much for that. And it is, and and I said we would be interested in hearing from also organizations that are not based in the province. But I just want to remind people that the OCI funding specifically is for Ontario-based SMEs. So it is possible to get an introduction and or partner with an Ontario-based SME to be eligible for the challenge. Yeah, so I think that's great. I don't know if we have other questions in there. Doesn't look like that. I will just indicate that sorry, yes, Ramesh.
Sorry, Chris, like I just didn't want to lose this detail.
Mm,
I did get into the report that I was talking about, which we will share with
mhm.
everybody here. Typically, it looks like between 6 and 8 p.m. is when you have the highest number of pedestrian collisions, which makes sense, right? Like it's turning dark, but still, like there's probably utilitarian commuting pedestrians and others are still on the road, right? So, but we will send the link to some more information through the regional team. Sorry, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you very much. And clearly, there's an openness to look at this challenge from all angles, whether it be for lengthening perception times, really alerting drivers. So any of those types of solutions would be welcome to be looked at. I did want to maybe ask both Allison and Sylvia if you have anything you wanted to emphasize and or add to what Ramesh has said so far, or anything that has been addressed.
Maybe I could start, Sylvia, if you like.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, my general comments are just that the region's really excited to partner with the Durham RTDS on this. We see a lot of value. We have a history in collaborating with small businesses. We've done some projects. Ramesh himself, his team has led some collaborative projects with businesses, and we're excited to see what innovations out there and play our role in helping developing this ecosystem and make our roads safer. And so I'm more here from the strategic plan side of view. I'll just add to Ramesh's comment specifically some of the documents that he's referenced, the Vision Zero report, the more detailed report with the information about time of day. We'll get those posted on the Durham RTDS site. That is where we want to have all of the information. So if you're on the site and you look to see where it says for full information about the challenge, right below that is where we're going to add more information following this discussion today. We'll make sure all of the questions are answered and all of the information is included there. Yep. And we look forward to seeing all the submissions that come in and by August 15th.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much, Allison. Sylvia?
Yeah, actually, Allison did an excellent job of just redirecting everybody back to the Durham RTDS website, where the application, the information, the full information in terms of the RFP documentation is posted. Within that document, you'll find details about the challenge, the evaluation process, what will be evaluated in terms of the different criteria that the evaluation team is looking at. So all of that information is posted to the Durham RTDS website. So go there, look it up if you haven't already. Any questions? Chris, Allison, and Ramesh have both done a great job of referencing the fact that we will be taking all questions in writing and addressing those via an addendum, which will also be posted on the site. I did want to just highlight to everyone that potentially this challenge could result in a purchase. It could result in just the end of the challenge itself. It may result in further work. So all of that good detail is in our document. And if there's any questions about that, the challenge itself, the process, please submit those questions to us in writing, and we'll get those addressed and posted.
Okay, that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sylvia, for that. That's great, and yeah, I think it's a pretty comprehensive document. So really well done in doing that. I did actually have maybe a point. I'll ask Fernanda to clarify on the funding side of things, because clearly a lot of really great funding available. But on the stream one, Fernanda, that one, I don't think there is. It's sort of a continual intake, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Applications open throughout the year.
Yeah,
So yeah.
exactly. So that's great anytime. And so that can fit very well with not only this challenge, but as I mentioned, the game plan is to do another 2 of these this year and then 3 each year following. So we're working on that. And again, Fernanda, great both project related funding and also talent related funding, which is really important to support SMEs in all of this. Okay, having said that, I don't see any further questions in the chat, so we would just remind people, and we will indicate, that there is a contact in the RFP document after today that you can submit questions through that. But I would just like to thank, Ramesh and Sylvia, Alison, and Fernanda for joining us today and all the great information that is shared. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
So just sort of a closeout and summary, just sort of key points from today's session. Just a reminder again that 15th of August, the end of the day, for submissions of your challenge response through the Durham RTDS website at durhamrtds.ca. And I think, Kaylee, you're going to drop a few of those websites in the chat for people. And again, a reminder that, questions after today must be addressed to Kelly Dixon at the Durham region. Her email is included in the RFP document that is available on both the Durham RTDS as well as on the region's website. And again, if you're a small and medium-sized enterprise or a larger company or a community that want to know more about the Durham RTDS and what we're up to, please reach out to us through the Durham RTDS website. And I think that's basically it for today. So I would like to thank you, our audience, for your interest and attending today's session. Thanking all of our speakers and guests for the good information shared, and certainly our behind the scenes team for all their work. And I would like to wish everyone a great day today. Thank you so much, and bye for now.